3, 2, 1.
We are staticProductions.
Hello and welcome to the 4 of 7 amazing podcasts informing you about the 7 information processes. We are staticProductions, and today we're going to inform you about the information process of storing and retrieving, the hardware and software associated with this information process, the trend to faster and greater storage, the non-computer procedures in storing and retrieving, and the social and ethical issues relevant to the storing and retrieving process.
Storing and retrieving is the information process by which data and information is saved and accessed later. Storing and retrieving is a two-part process. Storing saves data or information, and retrieving reloads the data and information. The actual data being stored or retrieved is left unchanged. Rather, the physical method of representing data changes. The CPU can only process a limited amount of data at any one time. Consequently, it is necessary to maintain data and information both before and after processing.
The CPU stores and retrieves data directly from the primary storage, mainly RAM. However, primary storage is volatile and non-permanent. To permanently store data requires secondary storage into primary storage in preparation for processing by the CPU. Once the data is processed, it is returned to primary storage and finally is stored on the secondary storage. Secondary storage is non-volatile. It does not require power and is used to maintain a more permanent copy of the data or information.
Storing and retrieving is about preserving data and allowing data to be rescued at a later time. There are several reasons for wishing to preserve data, including allowing other processing to take place, allowing for a temporary halt in the system, backing up and recovering, and assisting the transfer of data or information.
Secondary storage has a much greater capacity than primary storage. Furthermore, it is not uncommon for files to be larger than the total capacity of primary storage. Consequently, data and even program instructions must be retrieved from the secondary storage as required by the process occurring at that particular time. Similarly, once primary storage is full, then the data that has been processed is saved to secondary storage.
Backing up is defined as copying files to a separate secondary storage device as a precaution in case the first device fails or is lost. Recovering data is the opposite process by which the data is retrieved or restored from the backup copy and placed back into the system. The aim of creating backups is to prevent data loss in the unfortunate event that the original data is damaged or lost. Such damage most often results from hard disk failures. Some other reasons for data loss include software faults, theft, fire, viruses, intentional malicious damage, and even intentional changes that are later found to be.
For backup copies to most effectively guard against such occurrences requires backups to be made regularly and that these backup copies are kept safe. Even the most reliable computer will eventually break down, and the consequences could be devastating if no backups have been made. There are two main types of backups that are commonly used: full backups and partial backups. A full backup includes all files, whereas partial backups, which only include files that have been created or altered since the last backup was made.
When we view a web page, receive an email, or access data across a network, we are, amongst other things, retrieving files from a storage device on a remote computer. The data or information on the remote computer must be stored before it can be retrieved and transferred to other computers. So what hardware is used in the storing and retrieving process?
Some terminologies commonly used to describe characteristics of hardware storage devices are random or sequential access, volatile or non-volatile, and permanent or non-permanent. Random access refers to the ability to go on to any data item in any order. Once the location of the required data is known, then it can be read or written directly without accessing or affecting any other data.
The final characteristic to describe hardware storage devices is permanent or non-permanent. No storage device is totally permanent. In reality, there are only degrees of durability. The meaning of these terms permanent and non-permanent largely depends on the context in which they are used. A context in which this could be placed is applied to backup copies of data, particularly in regard to networks. Files or complete storage devices that are included within regular backups are said to be permanent, whereas data not including such backups is said to be semi-permanent or non-permanent.
RAID, or Redundant Array of Independent Disks, and tape libraries are the most commonly used technologies for network storage. RAID provides fast data access combined with inbuilt fault tolerance. Tape libraries, as the name suggests, provide access to multiple magnetic tapes.
RAID utilizes multiple hard disk drives together with a RAID controller. The RAID controller manages the data flowing between the hard disk and the attached computer. The attached computer just sees the RAID device as a normal single hard disk. Simply, RAID systems contain just 2 hard disks, whilst large systems may contain many hundreds of disks.
Backing up a disk manually swaps media, and doing this for a large organization could take days. This is where tape libraries come in. Tape libraries include multiple tapes and multiple tape drives. A robotic system moves tapes between the storage racks and the tape drive.
There are various sized tape libraries that are available to suit the demands of different information systems. Backup processes on such large systems continue 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Along with the hardware used in storing and retrieving, there is software involved in storing and retrieving. So what are the different types of software used in storing and retrieving process?
Software controls and directs the operation of all hardware, including all the various types of storage devices. Software causes hardware to perform processes that ultimately assist in achieving the system's purpose. Virtually all application software utilizes the storing and retrieving process. However, there are particular types of software whose central purpose is managing the storing and retrieving of data.
Database management systems are software applications used to store and retrieve data within databases. Most databases contain various types of data arranged into multiple tables, where each table is composed of records. In large organizations, the number of users and the number of records becomes massive. It is the database's job to manage the storing and retrieval of this data so that all the users have access in a logical and efficient manner. Besides the hardware and software used in the storing and retrieving, there are also non-computer tools used. So what are these tools and how do they influence the storing and retrieving process?
Social and ethical issues in regard to the storing and retrieving of data are largely concerned with ensuring stored data can only be accessed and used by authorized purposes. Even large businesses are unable to detect unauthorized access has been occurred, let alone be able to identify the perpetrator.
Well, that brings us to the end of our podcast on storing and retrieving.
We are staticProductions.
And we hope to see you in the next installment of our series about the information processes. The process of processing. Thanks and goodbye.
Bring me the light.